RA 7277, known and cited as the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons. Now, this law is actually amended by RA 9442 and RA 10754. However, we'll only focus on RA number 7277. For this lecture, you will learn what is RA 7277, what is the purpose of the enactment of this law, and who are the disabled persons as defined in this law, and what are the rights and privileges granted to them. So that is the lecture outline. Now let's proceed. Republic Act number 7277 is an act providing for the rehabilitation, self-development, and self-reliance of disabled persons and their integration into the mainstream of society and for other purposes. So RA 7277, also known as Magna Carta for Disabled Persons, was enacted primarily for the purpose of providing rights and privileges for disabled persons that will support to the improvement of their total well-being and their integration into the mainstream of society. Actually, RA 7277 is one of the measures designed to achieve social justice. The disabled persons are also part of the Philippine society. Thus, the state shall exert all efforts to remove all social, cultural, economic, and environmental barriers that are prejudicial to their rights. So that is why Magna Carta for Disabled Persons was enacted. Now let us define the terms that we'll encounter along. Who are disabled persons? Disabled persons are those suffering from restriction or different abilities as a result of a mental, physical, or sensory impairment to perform an activity in the manner or within the range considered normal for a human being. In short, sila yung mga taong may kapansanan. Sino naman ang mga marginalized disabled persons? Sila yung may mga taong may kapansanan na kulang sa access to rehabilitative services at opportunities na makakapag-allow sa kanila mag-participate sa socio-economic activities. Sila yung mga walang hanap buhay at may income below the poverty threshold. Next, let us define what is impairment, handicap, and disability. Oftentimes, we tend to be confused about these terms. Kasi kapag sinearch mo siya sa Filipino dictionary, si impairment, handicap, and disability will all result to kapansanan. Now, impairment. Impairment is any loss, diminution, or aberration of psychological, physiological, or anatomical structure or function. So, si impairment, ito yung kabawasan o pagkabawas o kawalan sa ating physiological or psychological structure. Kagaya ng hearing impairment, visual impairment, or any physical impairment. Now, disability. Disability, on the other hand, is an inability or restricted ability to perform an activity within the normal human range. For example, you are unable to walk, hindi ka makalakad, it is a form of disability. Handicap naman, it is a disadvantage resulting from impairment or disability that limits the social role of an individual. For example, hindi ka makapagtrabaho due to limited access. So, nalilimitahan yung social role ng isang individual kapag meron tayong handicap. Now, let's proceed to the 7 rights and privileges granted to the disabled persons. Because disabled persons have also the same rights as other people to take their proper place in society. So, my report shall mainly focus on the right of the disabled persons to education, but let us have a brief summary of each right. First is the right to employment. Alam niyo ba na mahirap talaga maghanap ng trabaho kapag disabled person tayo? That is why the state provided an equal opportunity for employment to the disabled persons. Section 5 of this act provides for the equal opportunity for employment. It states that no disabled person shall be denied access to opportunities for suitable employment. So the next right is the right to health. In Chapter 3 of this act, particularly Section 18, 19, and 20. It provided for the different health programs and health services for the disabled persons. Next is the auxiliary social services. So pag sinabing auxiliary, ito yung mga additional help and support na kinakailangan para sa mga disabled persons. Those services that will restore their social functioning and participation in community affairs. Another right is the telecommunications, right to telecommunications. So television stations shall be encouraged to provide a sign language inset or subtitles in at least one newscast program a day and a special programs covering events of national significance. So yung mga telephone services, dito papasok sa right na to. Right to accessibility. So the state also shall ensure the attainment of a barrier-free environment that will enable the disabled persons to have access in public, private buildings, establishments, at sa iba pang mga lugar. Another right is the political and civil rights. Now, these rights are personal rights of an individual, and that includes the right to vote, the right to form assembly, to participate in rallies, processions, parades, public meetings, and they have also the right to form organizations or associations. Now, let's go to the main topic, the right to education. This can be found in the Chapter 2 of this Act. It contains 6 sections, namely the access to quality education, assistance to disabled students, special education, vocational or technical and other training programs, non-formal education, and the state universities and colleges. Section 12 of this Act provides for the access to quality education. So the state shall ensure that disabled persons are provided with access to quality education and ample opportunities to develop their skills. It shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all disabled persons. So it shall be unlawful for any school or learning institution to deny a disabled person in admission. Sa Section 13 naman, it provides for the assistance to the disabled persons. So the state shall provide financial assistance to economically marginalized but deserving disabled students pursuing post-secondary or tertiary education. So such assistance may be in the form of scholarship grants, student loan programs, subsidies, and other incentives sa mga qualified na disabled students sa both sa public at private schools. Section 14 states that the state shall establish, maintain, and support complete integrated system of special education for the visually impaired, hearing impaired, mentally retarded persons, and other types of exceptional children in all regions of the country. It shall also establish braille and record libraries sa provinces, cities, at sa mga municipalities. Vocational or technical and other training programs are provided in the Section 15 of this Act. The state shall provide disabled persons with training in civics, vocational efficiency, sports, and physical fitness and other skills. Now, sa non-formal education naman, the state shall develop non-formal education programs intended for the total human development of disabled persons. One of the examples of that program is the Alternative Learning System or ALS. This program contributes to the adult and youth literacy as well as education for out-of-school children. Section 17 deals with the state universities and colleges. It states that the state university or state college in each region shall be responsible for the development of material appliances, technical aids for disabled persons, and also the development of training materials for vocational rehabilitation and special education instructions. Furthermore, they are also responsible for the research on special problems, particularly of the visually impaired, hearing impaired, speech impaired, and orthopedically impaired students, mentally retarded, mga multi-handicapped, and others. So those are the rights and privileges of the disabled persons. As a conclusion, RA 7277 is a very significant law because it raised awareness to the disabled persons that they have also the same rights and privileges. This law also is a tool in order to eradicate discriminations among these disabled persons.